Hey everybody, it's Tim Gowling. I'm doing something a little bit different today, and I made, I think, a pretty smart business decision. So let's have a look here. So here you can see I bought myself a printer. You see I haven't got a very good desk up there, but let's not pay too much attention to that. That's just a temporary table that I use for events. I cleared a space. I put a temporary table up there ready for me to get another table. So you can see I got a Canon Prograf Pro 1100. I haven't opened it yet. I'm pretty excited. It just came today. I overnighted it from Toronto. So it's going to be exciting, and there's a few reasons why I've done this. I've moved my lighting around today, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not used to holding a camera like this too, so it's a bit too shaky. Sorry. Anyways, so I'm going to get a tripod set up. We'll have a look. And there's a few things that I want to talk about as well, about why I got this printer. Especially, you know, there's so many drop shipping options available. So let's dig into that, shall we? Hey guys, so this is what I got. I got a professional grade printer for my business. It's the Canon Prograf Pro 1100. As you can see, I have a shoddy table right behind me. This is a table that I use for events, so don't judge me on that table. It is only temporary. Hopefully it's going to hold the printer. I'll probably lower it again. But as you can see, this is a pretty big printer, and it was a lot of work for me just to bring it down the stairs on my own. There were two delivery guys that dropped it off this morning, and I am actually pretty surprised how quickly it came from Toronto. The only thing is there was a hole in the bottom of the box, and the plastic around on the printer had a small hole in it, so it must have had like a little shipping mishap. So hopefully there's no damage to the printer. So you see we have a sealed box. I just took the invoice off. I'll show you. There's a hole right here. So, and it touched the plastic on the bottom of the printer, so I'm hoping the printer's okay. But that's not going to be, you know, that's not a supplier caused problem. That's probably, you know, there's another little hole here. So, and this too, don't worry. That was me when I tried to lift up the box to bring it inside the house. This thing is freaking heavy. It is definitely a two-person lift, so I wouldn't try and do it on your own. I'm pretty able-bodied just from previous businesses and, you know, industries that I was in. So let's get into it. Let's, you know, talk about why I got something like this. And, you know, it's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. Getting a printer. I've been you know, mulling it over, and so I use a CRM platform that hosts my website, my client galleries, and it does all like my invoicing stuff before the accounting. So I'm pretty well invested with that, and because I'm you know, in Canada, the labs at this online service use are only in the States, and on more than one occasion I've had clients message me going, okay, well, I've made the minimum order of prints, which is X amount, and then I go through the checkout, and then once I go through the checkout and then goes into shipping, the shipping cost is the same price as the order they've made, and then they're choosing to print somewhere else because they don't want to pay double. Now all my clients are local, so I don't believe there's going to be an issue with them coming to me and picking anything up, or if they're close enough to my house, I'll run to their house. But so I've been, you know, losing the sales on that. And I go to a lot of weddings, and my clients, you know, I see the engagement pictures that I've taken for my clients, and they've got them printed. And I'm like, oh, it kind of bums me out a little bit. Like, I mean, nothing speaks like, oh, they think highly enough of my work that they print it and, you know, show it, and to lots of, you know, all their wedding guests. And I'm like, that's you know, that's pretty good for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, they love my pictures that much that they're willing to print them and show them to everybody. but they didn't choose me to print. Now, nothing's going to stop clients going to cheap online printers like Poster Jack, but for the clients that do want to support you, you know, and I've had it on more than one occasion, like I've said, I'm losing the sale because of shipping, and shipping is so much from the US to Canada, especially for like the small things. So this is why I've invested in the printer. So it's only a fraction more to print yourself than it would be to use the lab in the States. Now, I'm still going to use the lab in the States for bigger items, but you expect to pay shipping on that. For the smaller stuff, you don't, you know, the shipping shouldn't be as much as it is. So to bring those, to capture that sale back into the business, I invested in the printer. And that way I can capture that sale back. And now that I have this printer, you can't let a printer sit around idle. The inks dry up, and you don't want that. It's a piece of equipment, it's got to work for you. So what I did is I altered my package pricing for various different packages, and depending on what package you buy, you also get prints. So that way you're still making, you're charging a little bit more than what you would have done without the prints. You're not charging as much as what the client would get if they buy the prints on their own. So that's where the incentivized package is to upgrade. And that way your printer is not sitting idle and the ink's drying out and you're doing less maintenance. So it brings the cost of the machine down by keeping it running. So that's the business side of why I decided to get a printer like this. And I'd love to, you know, I do like I do some flea markets for Christmas and stuff. So I'm going to be doing, you know, packages related to that. And also I like to do wildlife pictures. That's my hobby side of this business, and it like always has been. It's never been like a money driver for me. So, you know, it's not something that I post a lot on Facebook, and it's not something that I get a lot of time to do, but you know, I've won a few competitions with my wildlife pictures, and it's something that I would like to be able to print and then just sell, you know, at the flea markets that I go to, where I'm also taking portraits of clients. And to be honest, you know, I get quite a few wedding leads from these flea markets that I do. So there, and I advertise as well for that. So I feel like this is going to be a worthwhile investment to the business. Now, you know, it's not the same return as like your camera equipment, where you're getting paid to do 8 hours worth of photography, or if you're a videographer, you know, videography for the day. But it's just like a nice little add-on, right? And it also, I believe that it would add more value to my business, because clients are getting something tangible instead of just digital files, or wedding albums, which I haven't actually sold that many wedding albums this year. I'm not sure why. The economy's kind of in a weird spot. If I'm giving something physical with their digital product, the people pay all this money for us. We're not cheap by any means. I believe that it's going to be more beneficial and incentive. I can't pronounce the word. Blah blah blah. There's more incentive for the client to go, oh look, this photographer just does digital, but this one gives us prints as well. Even if they're a little bit more, I believe that is a good incentive for clients to go, oh yeah, I'm getting something physical out of this too. I'm not just getting just digital files. So time will tell. I can always do an update for this, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to get into this thing. My boy's just down for his nap time. I don't normally record on days where he's home with me, but he's having a nap right now, my 2-year-old boy. So I got the Image Prograf 1100. I did my research. I didn't want to spend the $4,000 on the wide format just yet, especially when you're buying rolls of paper. and only just cutting out small pieces with it. I believe that this, you know, and I also didn't want the 300 because it wasn't part of their, you know, professional line. I wanted something that I could print fairly big with as well and off a roll, because I have a couple of panoramic pictures that I want to print as well, and I'll have to get, I haven't got the extra set of ink yet. I'll see how fast I go through the second half of the ink of this, because when you start it up and run the jets, you use half the ink that they send you, and they don't give you starter cartridges, which is nice. So I'm pretty excited to get into this. So it comes with some sample sheets. It comes with 12 full ink cartridges, which, you know, this printer was 1,500 Canadian. I bought it just the other day, and to replace all the ink before the taxes is $910. So just, you know, it's a $2,500 investment pretty much into making money. I'll probably order the extra set of ink cartridges in, you know, a couple of weeks. We'll see how fast I burn through the cartridges they first send me. And I've had great success using labs as well, so I'm not too worried about experimenting with colors and stuff. I'm used to soft proofing within Lightroom to make sure that my files get delivered accurately, because different papers, you know, it's much easier, I've found so far, to soft proof for a glossy paper than it is for a matte paper, but I absolutely love the results from matte. So I regularly order from Camera Canada, and they didn't have any matte papers, I think, in stock in the sizes that I was after, but these are the papers that I got. So I ordered some glossy 6x4s. That's going to be fun to start with. I got 100 of those. I have 50 8.5 by 11 Pro lusters. This is what I'm offering with a lot of my sessions. So this paper is going to be like the promotional piece of paper that I use, because this paper is more expensive than this paper on my online store. But if you buy it in like this, you know, the smaller packages that I offer, you get this piece of paper, you know, this size print for this price. I can't talk, for this price. I'm holding the package wrong way around, that way. So that's the business side of doing that. And then for like large prints and wildlife, couldn't find any of the 17 by 22 paper in stock for the Canon size at the moment, not without directly going to Canon. So I thought I'd try the 13 by 19 and then use a Passepartout with a larger frame to make it, you know, make it really stand out. So I'm pretty excited to be printing on this size, the 13 by 19. It's close to the 3:2 aspect ratio that 35mm uses. So, you know, that was my one thing about this printer when I looked at it. Going to the, if you print by a 16 by 24, that's a 3:2 aspect ratio. So you get what you see on your camera. So in order to do that, you're going to have to buy a roll for this printer and then trim it to size. You know, give yourself some safety margin with a 1/2 inch border around, because you can print up to 17 inches wide, but for this paper it can only go 22 inches long, so it's 2 inches shorter than a 3:2. So I'd have to get a roll and cut that to size and feed it through, because I really like the 3:2 aspect ratio. I like printing without any loss of my frame, but especially for the wildlife and like landscape stuff. But we will see how we go. Let's dig into this box and see what we got. We'll unpack it and we'll go from there. I'm just going to interrupt this video for a short moment of your time. Where do you buy your camera equipment from? I buy all my professional grade equipment from Camera Canada, and there's a reason for it. They have a fast and easy to use website. They have plenty of availability of stock, and they keep stuff in stock that I haven't seen anywhere else. Their shipping is also super duper quick, and their customer service over the phone has always been fantastic to me. You can find their link to Camera Canada in the description below. Now back to the video. All right, as you see, I can't get all this box in the frame. I'm shooting at 24mm at the moment. I know I have my desk office chair pretty close to me. I'm just trying to hide my bucket of trash and all my other files that don't fit in my desk. So let's get into this box. Damn it, fuck, motherfuckers. Alright, so we'll see how much of this we can get through before I have to get my boy up from his nap. He normally sleeps for like 3 hours during the day, which is fantastic for getting work done. And I know, like, I'm on a pretty tight schedule at the moment. Like, a lot of the busy wedding season is kind of coming to a close right now. But that doesn't mean editing stops, right? That just means my days out shooting aren't as frequent. So keeping yourself busy is going to be, you know, I'm swamped with editing. I have quite a number of weddings to edit, so I've got to get into that at some point. Well, I am getting into that. It's just I have a big distraction with me today, and that's this big old printer. So we have the looks like setup instructions. And I've already preloaded all the drivers onto my computer. I believe I just need to now plug in the printer. I also have the network cable already set up, so I can just plug it into Ethernet and set it up through, you know, through the Wi-Fi, through, you know, network. I do a lot, like, I like my, you know, computer networking. I have network cables running through my entire house. All my TVs are run off Ethernet, so I make the house all into like a giant computer network. I have like 3 Wi-Fi routers. So we've got, you know, quite a few different pieces of paperwork that I'll keep forever and never read. Safety information, don't cut off your hand. It doesn't say that. I don't know what it says. And not that I'm saying if you're that kind of person to read it. Proper handling of the print head. Ensure the print head. Okay, this is probably pretty important information. Yes. So this is, I'll get into that maybe in a little bit. Power supply. They give you a big spreadsheet here in many different languages. So this one, nah, I'm never going to read that. Might read this. What's this? Poster artist? I don't know. Maybe some kind of software. Limited warranty. Canada only. Important maintenance. Okay. This is basically says don't uninstall the print head unnecessarily. When you install the print head, insert the print head into the print head holder carefully, not to knock it against the sides of the holder. Okay, so it's basically saying don't be rough with it. And then we have some, and we have some paper. It says Paper Pro Luster. I was under the assumption you got 5 sheets here. Do we have anything else? Let's have a look. Ah! Okay, so what do we got? It comes with 5 Pro Luster. And is that it? 1. I shouldn't be touching it with my dirty fingers. 2, 3. Ah. So it comes with a sample pack of 5 sheets of Pro Luster. In the picture on the Canon website, it came with a lot more. It came with 20 sheets of paper of different kinds of paper too, for you to try out and do the maintenance, but at least you get some paper so you can run the first maintenance on it and set up. You also have the setup instructions. Connect the power cord, press it on, follow the instructions. You can use an app to do it. Okay. What else we got in here? Another piece of paper, not important. Cardboard, trash. Okay, so maybe, hopefully I'll get some more printer paper, but we'll find out, I guess. What else is in the box? We've got the printer in there, we've got some nice carry handles. Junk. Cardboard tube. Supports. I'm guessing this box here is the print head. Yep, got a print head sign on it. I have to be careful, probably the being rough with it is, there we go. It's probably for that message is explicitly for me, because I used to be in a trade where you could be rough with things, so, but not always. Alright, more trash. Cardboard. It was cardboard collection day today, and now I have a ton more cardboard, so whoop-de-doo. More cardboard. What else needs to come out of this before I start lifting everything out? Got a nice box here. All the ink cartridges are in here. So I'm squatting. Yep, got 12 cartridges. They come in this nice little box. And, oh, it's all coming apart now. Bloody hell. Alright, so we're now ready to pull this printer out of the box, hey? As you can see, my office is looking pretty bare. I did have a big flat screen here. I rearranged my whole area and gave myself some more working room to accommodate this printer. So do expect that this wall will have pictures on it one day when I get around to it. Probably pretty soon, because I'm pretty excited to get printing with this thing and see how my artwork and my, my professional work comes to life through paper, because I do, beforehand I did drop shipping. It's quite not often that I could get stuff physically in my hands. It would go straight to the client. So I am pretty stoked for this business venture. So let's get it out of the box, shall we? They give you like plastic bags. It's a God. There's a good reason why I lowered. So I had my table that I use for the flea market and any other events that I could do. So I've just got it temporarily set up. I lowered the legs all the way to the bottom because this table was from Costco and it has like the pinch pins that go into the sides of the legs, and I didn't want it to fail and the printer to come off one side of the table and break. So I've lowered the table all the way to the ground. I'll probably try and get a table or desk up. I'm looking for something wide enough that I can hold the printer like this, sideways, and I can print off it with like a roll. So we will see. I could probably use another desk, but it doesn't have drawers. So my current work desk that I use, that you see me at all the time on videos, that would probably work really nicely for for the size of table that you have. However, what wouldn't work so nicely is that it doesn't have like lots of drawers that you could fit all your paper and your ink stocks in. So, and then even stock of like wildlife images too. So I'm yet to overcome that hurdle of a problem. So let's get into this, shall we? This is a pretty mighty product. And it takes up the whole of this table. And bear in mind, like by the end of the month when I'm at the flea market, I'm gonna have to take this printer off. So I've got to come up with a solution fairly quickly. Just stick all that cardboard in the box. Now, one thing, before I load it up with inks, I want to make sure that the bottom, because as you saw, I had a hole in the box. They didn't ship it inside of another box. I mean, can you blame them? It's in the big box. So, but when things get heavy, cardboard becomes a bit flimsy. So I don't have any worries about standing it up on edge because there's no ink in it. That's how it was delivered too. So it has a scratch right there in the bottom of it. I mean, at least it's not the top of it where I can see the scratch, but I'm worried. Hopefully it's done no damage. We'll see when we kick it on, I guess. Now, this thing is covered in lots of tape and plastics, so I'm not going to bore you too much with that. I'll probably speed up the video if you like. Get all this stuff off. Nearly dropped a swear word there, shit. So we'll get this prepped and ready for work. What I should really be doing today is editing pictures. This has been a big distraction for me. But it's part of being a business owner, right? There's lots of things that people don't realize that need to get done when you're a business owner. Photography is, some people give it a higher percentage of this, but being a full-time pro is 10% of your time is with the camera, and you have to make that 10% count. Like, I set up and bought a printer. Okay, so this is half the day gone. I had a phone call this morning. That was an hour and a half. So at some point today, I also got to test print this and make sure it works, especially after it had a hole in the bottom and a scratch on the bottom. So at some point, and I have my boy with me as well, so I have to feed him lunch, look after him, give him some attention, as well as trying to work. He does go to daycare some days of the week, especially when I'm super busy. He'll go for more than one day, but generally it's just one day, so I can actually, you know, get a lot of stuff done. You know, it brings the cost down. A lot of people, you know, would say, oh, why don't you send him to daycare more and then you get more work done? I'm like, but he's only this age once, so why not make it count? Because, you know, the rest of his life is going to be at school and then at work. So this is the longest period that anyone really has at home alone. Well, not home alone, but at home with their parents. So I'm just trying to, not that you'll remember being at home all the time, but PC. This is a pretty straightforward setup. So I like that I can be here for my boy growing up, and I did the same with my last two. So backstory behind me, I've been self-employed for a long time, and I came into, you know, being self-employed when my first one was heading off to school, because no one would employ me. My wife had finally found a job that she enjoyed, so I wasn't going to ask her to quit her job she liked because the kids were going to school and they need someone to take them on and off the bus. And I thought, you know, I hate my job, so let's take this opportunity to become self-employed, make a job for myself to make money, and, you know, be at home for my kids and do what I like to do. You know, I've never been one to, I don't like being a boss, you know, I like being a boss, I don't like being an employee. So, and these are, you know, I think I've had 7 businesses so far, so there we go, there's all the ink. Perfect. I'm probably gonna have to take a little break. It says processing, please wait momentarily. But I need to go get my boy up from his nap and we'll go from there. All right, so from here on out, I now have my boy down from my nap. He's now staring at me because I have lights and stands and cameras set up. So he's just like, what is going on over there? Hey, buddy. Anyway, so the next step in this, let's pop this print head in. Now it says be careful, remember the instructions. So I guess let's be careful. Now, let's remember this video was never really intended to be a setup video, but it's just kind of evolved that way as I've recorded today. So I'm pretty stoked to get this part of my business up and running. It's thinking. Being able to offer prints to people, I'm fairly excited. So let's have a look. How do we get this open? So it looks like I have a little tab here. Pull out the piece of plastic. I've got to fold something else up. And hopefully that's the last piece of plastic I have to deal with in this setup. Yeah, so I've done that. Okay. Oh, and then, okay, let's pull this out of the bag. I am looking forward to getting a proper table, something where I have storage for paper, because at the moment I have everything like everywhere that's for this, all the paper that I showed you. So it'd be really nice to have something organized to put it in. Now, one thing that I am pretty excited about that, you know, brought me towards this printer than any other printer is that from this model upwards, they have the Canon accounting software. And that's probably the most exciting part for me. You know, I'm a business owner, and knowing all my costs, especially calculating something like ink, is pretty, important, because I want to be able to sell sell something not at a guesstimate, but something for my clients without having to make any second guesses about my pricing. So let's get this print head up. Has a little diagram. Now I've already seen some things on the internet. So this is pretty cool. It's got all like the nozzles in there. And I guess I just gently pop it in without being too rough. There we go. I believe that's seated in the way that they wanted. Okay. And now it's doing its thing. Do your thing. They say you don't need to keep this stuff and to like throw it away. But it might actually be helpful in when you, if I do need to change the print head, I don't know. Am I hoarding it? My boy is also hiding and standing over there all weird because he's like, what is this big machine sitting here? Want to see the printer? Hey, buddy. No, he's going to stand over there and he's not going to want to see. All right, so now that we've done the initial print calibration. Yeah, buddy, you got rubble. As you see, it's got some lines here. Yeah, I wouldn't put that there though. Thanks, buddy. We're going to go and then I'm going to set up the connection that I want to use. You got to let the ink dry, mate. You got to let the ink dry. Yeah. So let's put this piece away so you don't put stuff on there. Yeah. And I'm going to set up for a wired LAN connection, mister. You were scared of this. You were scared of this for a good while. Wired LAN connection. You can do Wi-Fi, USB, or do not connect. I've heard people say that using a Wi-Fi connection with the Apple, it doesn't seem to be work as well with the, because you have Apple AirPrint and then you lose all the options. So I'm just going to go with a wired LAN connection. That's how I have my entire house, all my TVs. Like I have three TVs set up this way. My regular office printer is set up that way too. So, you know, I just, send stuff to the IP address of the office printer, and boom, it's, it's done. So I'm going to go for a wired LAN connection. So it has been selected. So let's do this, connect an Ethernet cable, and then select OK. So that seems pretty straightforward. And then I'll probably just have to find the IP address and then bung that into the computer, or it might do that itself. I already have everything set up in the, in the software of the computer. I downloaded all the Canon stuff off the Canon Canada website, and that was really easy. And I stored, a few gigs, 5 gigabytes of software. So that was all pretty easy. I did that the other day. So let's get this connected. Is it black and white? That didn't come out right. Right, so after making a couple of test prints, as you can see, my first print out of the printer came out in black and white. So after enabling the IP address and searching for the printer within my Mac computer, for the IP address, and activating the printer, using the print setup, you have to toggle on color printing within Lightroom. I found that out the hard way. So I edited my color picture to the ICC profile. It was in color, I hit print, and this was just like a line that I missed within the page setup within Lightroom. And the image came out black and white. And I was like, what is going on here? So I had a quick flick on Google, and then I'm like, I'll have a look at the print settings. And lo and behold, within Lightroom, you have to toggle on printing with color, not toggling it off. So lesson learned. So I did a couple of test prints, and I am really impressed. So I have the black and white image. As you can see, it looks nice. I love it. But it wasn't the result that I was looking for. And then I made some adjustments, and I did it again in color. As you can see, I am really happy with the skin tones of this. I am super looking forward to getting these pictures to clients. I mean, this is my own daughter, but I am, excited to be able to get print products that I can see and physically hold to my clients. I think it's going to be very valuable for my business. So if you're looking towards doing this self for your own business, then I've done the research. So I think it makes sense, especially in this day and age, to try and give your business some value. And this printer is not wholly that much expensive, especially when you're looking at some of the L lenses out there, like I shoot with Canon. And, L lenses start a couple of $1,000s upwards. This printer's less than that just to get going without having to buy the extra full set of ink. But I'm really happy with this print image. So I've had a look at the Canon accounting manager for this printer. I did say that correctly. I'm looking for my notes on the screen. And it has told me how much those two prints cost. They were 8.5 by 11. So let's jump into the software and have a little look, shall we? Your admin password is. Once you've entered the admin password, you can then go through the, hit OK, test the admin password. So once you've done that, you can go into unit costs. So it has all the colors laid out nice and easy. So then you just put in the costs of what you paid for all the ink. Now, these are all the starter-based inks. So they're part and parcel of the printer. So I just put in the prices that I would be restocking them at next time, because it's going to be coming up. So you have the ink tank capacity. So I didn't do that very well. So okay, so now I've just fixed that. I didn't have the ink tank capacity correct. But once you've done this, then you can go on to your papers. So I purchased 3 papers, and I got 100 4x6. I just put in the sale price because they were on sale. The photo paper luster, I got some at the 8.5 by 11, and I got some of the Pro Platinum paper at 13 by 19. I got 10 sheets of that. So those are my costs. So then you just hit OK. And once you've done printing, so you can print some items, and at the end of the day, you want to check how much it's cost you. You just hit the refresh button here, and it goes acquiring the job logs. There we go, date of last update, 3 o'clock. So I made just the 2 prints out of the printer so far. And it breaks down all the associated costs. So my first print was $1.32 or 31 cents, and then my second print was $1.37. You know, it came from Lightroom. It says the job is complete. It will tell you the photo paper. It gives you the paper size, the paper consumable, so how much the paper costs, print time, you know, 2 minutes 58. I mean, that's pretty quick for a 8.5 by 11. There we go. There's the actual paper cost, was 85 cents. Total ink cost was 46 on this line, and I like that. So it tells you how much ink, you know, you're using, and as those cartridges are 80 bucks, that's quite a good amount of, you know, printing. And this is going to really help you get your markups right, know exactly how much time how much use you're taking it, and then if you calculate your pay per hour, you can go, right, so it took 2 minutes to print. Were you standing there watching it, or were you editing, you know, working on something else? And then you can, you know, it really depends on how much you want to split hairs and how much time it took you to re-edit that image for the paper. That's entirely up to you and how you run that business. It really depends on how strict you are and how numbers driven you are. But the more numbers driven you are, the more likely you are to succeed, and more likely you're going to get approval from banks, all that kind of stuff. So it has a really good knock-on effect if you run a business like that. So I like being able to have numbers. So you select a job here, and you can export that job, see how much it costs, and then also tabulates the cost too. So, and it's tabulating, and it has put it somewhere on my computer. There we go, and into a CSV file. Perfect. And there we go. We've exported everything that I've done so far with the printer, which obviously isn't very much, but if you ever happen to get audited for tax purposes, because like ink and paper could also be like 8810 tax line number for your annual T1 taxes or self-employment taxes. So to prove that they're a cost of goods sold, you know, if you ever get audited, this kind of information, if depending on how difficult they would like to be, this information is very important, and it's one of the reasons why I believe that if you're looking to use, you know, print for business and for clients, using a printer that has this kind of software is much more valuable, because it makes, if you ever get audited, it makes your life so much easier, because they'll be like, okay, so you had this much paper, and I'm like, yes, okay, and then those are the sales, yes, and I'm like, okay, then where's the ink? And you should have to show proof of what you're using things for, depending on the level of the audit. So I think this is a fantastic way, because then you can just export all your processes, you know, all your print jobs for the year, put that into your accounting system, or just put it into your files with all your receipts and invoices. Come tax time, and there it is, just in case you have it on file for the 7 years that you need it. All right, so thanks guys for joining me on this little adventure we've had today, unpacking and unboxing the Canon Pro 1100. Now I know it's not so much of more of a review, it's more like vlog style, and it's more business orientated instead of like gear orientated. I feel like this printer is going to be valuable for my business. Let me know in the comments if you think that it could be valuable for your own business. You know, so far I have been pretty impressed. Unboxing it was pretty easy. My boy was scared of it for a little bit. Hey buddy. But, you know, he doesn't seem to mind it now. So please, I'd really appreciate it if you like, comment and subscribe to the channel. all your feedback and subscriptions really help grow the channel. Hey buddy, and I hope I get to see you guys in the future. All right, thank you. Bye bye now.